Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this narration of the web series The Nature of Predators. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 63. Memory Transcription. Subject: Governor Tava of the Venlo Republic. Many humans began their cultural exchange. They shared the blemishes of their history. The satellite wars almost sent the most powerful nations back to the Stone Age. By their own words, Federation researchers also documented the senseless atrocities of prior era, and noted the uncanny resemblance to Arxal brutality. It had been difficult for me to picture the Earthlings acting so violent towards each other. Those moral people killing millions of their race was unimaginable. The scale of bloodshed today forced me to reckon with that. I knew in my heart what the Predators were capable of, but I hadn't wanted to accept it. Sweeping their history under the rug in favor of the empathy tests and the charitable acts towards us was easier. Talking with Noah and Maya made me want to believe that they'd changed as a species. Maybe even your human friends could act out of aggression. You've seen outbursts from both. They restrain it because they learned morality, empathy. But does Noah ever fantasize about killing people? Just a tiny bit. Keep walking, Tava. The Terran ambassador placed a trembling hand on my shoulder and made me jump. You can't go into shock. We need to get you to a hospital. Please stay with me. Tears soaked my cheek for... Where are the other alien diplomats? I'll look for them, but Tava needs a tourniquet, Williams, Maya growled. Yeah, I agree. Listen, Tom, if anything happens, I want you to know that I love you, Noah whispered. You don't have to say it or feel it back, but I'm going to protect you. The chocolate-skinned predator scooped me up into his arms, passion alight in his binocular eyes. His visage became fuzzy. I felt cold, despite the warmth of his body. Saline swelled in my eyes as he ripped his shirt sleeve off with his bare fingers. His nails had turned grey from the grime and soot, and orange blood was smeared across his chest. There was no lot of it, sourced from my tail. Knowing the aggression hardwired into his genome should have struck sense into me. Humans were coded to be destructive and violent. Still, the fondness in my heart crowed out louder than ever. My Noah was little hot out of the collar, but only when faced with injustice. I trusted him, my life. I couldn't make myself regret befriending the Terrans. I love you too, I croaked. The human's lips quivered, torn between a smile and sorrow. He wrapped the cloth around my tail tightly, and blinding pain rocketed up my spine. It felt like he was amputating the limb, wrenching it from my body with an iron fist. I yelled in agony, burying my face into his chest. His brow furrowed as he finished tying the knot. The astronaut patted my head. It's done now. I'm sorry. I had to stop the bleeding. You're going to be fine. I don't know if I am. This was an isolated incident, right? I whimpered. Honestly, we've had tragedies like this happen on Earth before, though it's rare. All I can ask is that you don't judge us by our worst individuals. This is why the Federation wants us all dead. Most humans would never do something like this. You know that, but what kind of monster would? I don't know who did this or their motives. They're sick with grief or some disorder. Anything I say is speculation. But we're going to hunt the bastard down. Pardon the word choice. If this was a drastic action born of anger, human emotions needed to be monitored under a microscope. I tried to normalize the predator's stay and welcome them like any other class of refugees. But if they could be mass carnage any time a lone Terran was upset, I didn't know how safe it was to integrate them into our society. What other venues could be targets of senseless violence? How many Vendel lives could be lost? My vision began to dim as the fear chemicals lending energy tapered off. Ambassador Noah lunged at me with bare teeth, catching himself a bare shot in my face. He released an incoherent roar in my direction, the feel of the predator's warmth breath on my lips, and the sight of maddened eyes inches from my face sent flight cocktails coursing through my veins. Electricity jerked at my muscle fibers. Instincts propelled me upright and sent me stumbling away blindly. It took me several seconds to realize Noah was intending to startle me awake, triggering my flight response and jolted me back into consciousness, though that might not last long. I collided with Mayer, who had his back turned to me. "Crap! Watch here, Tava. Noah, you need to get her out of here," the Secretary General spat. The human leader had thrown caution to the wind, pressing his shoulder by a drowned Kupo's side. The Masik was bleeding from several places, including a mutilated leg. I appreciated Mayer's efforts, but he was going to be crushed if Kupo fell. The old primate couldn't support a creature several times his weight. "Leave him, Elias. You can't carry him. Come with us," I coughed. Kupo flared his trunk. "I am conscious, Tava. I don't want to die. Enough that I'm letting a predator touch me. My skin is crawling." The grey human gritted his teeth. "Nobody else is going to die on my watch. We have to help the big guy up. Give him a fighting chance." Ambassador Noah frowned before kneeling beside Secretary General. The two humans pushed Kupo off his side and hoisted him back onto his round feet. The Masik teetered on his legs for a moment, but the predators strained with the last of their bite. I noticed scarlet fluid drip through Noah's short mane. The sand-colored mammal swayed as he fixed the glare on the human. "What the feck happened, Predator? You predicted this, so you clearly know." "Oh, get to the hospital, President Kupo. I'm going to look for Tessa and Axley," Elias growled. "Let me help. I can carry them," the Masik president offered. "In your condition, just go. I'll deal with it. My eyes should work fine. You're not going to cover up these deaths. I won't leave until we find Nevok, at least." "Whatever. Look around. Be my guest." Kupo glanced in every direction before pointing his trunk at an Arctic-colored biped on the floor. Elias released an audible gasp and raced to the Nevok's side. His slender fingers crept to the pulse point on above the Tosa's hoof. His binocular eyes glowed, and he shook his head with a defeated expression. There was nothing but gore among the human spectators, with many primates dead or dying. Most responders were nowhere to be seen. We were alone in this mess. The Masik president took a final look at the decimated auditory before trundling over to the nearest exit. I imagine he would blame Mayer for this catastrophe for a long time. I limped over to the back room where Axley was, ignoring Noah beckoning me to the exit. Ironically, the Civ Kit's cowardice in the trash can left her more sheltered from the blast than anyone. Her fluffy white form was huddled in the receptacle, unconscious. The rise and fall of her chest was visible, so I assumed she passed out from terror. Mayer was right behind me and picked the Civ Kit diplomat up with haste. That was not going to end well if she woke up carried by a predator. Noah pointed us to the side exit with a scowl on his face, fighting off dizziness. I sandwiched myself between the two humans, all strength dissipated, as the duo ushered me through the exterior door. The shivering was unbearable, and my paws were becoming heavy as concrete. I'm ready to sleep. So cold," I gasped at Noah. "Please, don't scare me again." The human grimaced. "We're almost there. Just stay awake a little while longer, okay?" The shaken UN bodyguard brought the bright red kit over to Elias, who deferred it to Noah. The Secretary General couldn't administer first aid while his hands were full with the Civ Kit. The astronaut popped open the lid and pried out the fattest syringe that I'd ever seen. Before I could wince at the size of the needle, he jammed it against my neck. An adrenaline surge caused my limbs to convulse, and I fell over, gasping. "My hearts feel like someone is squeezing it inside my ribcage. Sure hope my atrium doesn't burst." The hormones did the trick to stabilize my blood pressure, and I tried to get a grip on my surroundings. Rough shouts stemmed from the throng of humans by the main entrance, who were barely kept at bay by armed UN personnel. Those soldiers seemed to have been shipped by the truckload in a hurry. Judging by the signs of vulgar language, the gathered refugees were protesting Elias Mayer's arrival. I heard about this gathering since its organizers didn't apply for the receiver legal permit. However, the Terran demonstrators had moved away from the designated area in the wake of the attack. Some were pushing towards the scene of the blast, though I had no idea whether it was to help or finish off the survivors. Others were escalating to violence, charging at the UN officers and throwing objects. What chance would Venlo police have of containing these animals? A few predators were setting fire to glass bottles, then hurling them at the surroundings. Historic row houses lit up like kindling, once the picturesque shutters were swallowed by flames. Before my eyes, the Terrans climbed up on the hood of the UN vehicle and began swinging a bat at the windshield. Surely, These humans realized that didn't accomplish anything. It was terrifying to see their destruction spiraling out of control. This violence must not be as isolated of an incident as I hoped. "I thought you were an intelligent species. What is this?" I cried. My shriek drew the attention of the mob, who began jeering at Maya in particular. Several lobbed accusations about Earth, and they overran the UN crowd control with renewed focus. Rocks, bricks, and other blunt objects were thrown with intent to injure. Noah herded me off with a rough grip. I hadn't felt his terrified of humans since first contact. I had no idea what motivated these creatures, or if they could even be reasoned with. As much as I loved the first contact team, allowing Terran refugees onto Vendel Prime was a mistake. We were going to have to get the current populace off-world if they would still heed our commands at all. I would warn my advisors to implement stringent psych evaluations for any arriving humans. This was wholly unacceptable. These predators had no care for who they might hurt, and today's death toll had to be in the dozens. I didn't want to judge humanity by their worst individuals. People like Mayer and Noah did not deserve to die for their deranged cohorts. Blanket condemnation was not the answer. But the Vendel Republic just learned the hard way that we needed to be more selective in which predators we dealt with. Mayer's eyes darted around. "We're going to restore order and fix this, Tava. I'm sorry. Bad things happen when a lot of angry humans get together. This is the past, love," Noah said. Glass shattered inches from my heels, and my flight instincts bubbled back to the forefront. Coupled with the given adrenaline, I found myself running at full speed. The screeching sound of tires on asphalt met my ears. A black sedan careened down the narrow street with no regard for any protesters in the path. The crowd parted at the last minute, raving and discombobulated. The Secretary General pointed towards the car. "Run! Get in!" The vehicles had an actual driver, who seemed to be switching between autopilot and manual steering. They popped open the side door, leaving our posse to clear the final few feet. I prayed that we would be able to escape these beasts. This was what it felt like to be hunted by pack predators, and there was no hope of humans tiring from the chase. Noah positioned his body behind me and shielded me from the projectiles sailing at us. A broken bottle nailed Maya in the back of the head, which earned a cheer from the crowd. Another human protester wrested a gun away from a UN peacekeeper, then began firing at the figurehead's center of mass, without hesitation. The UN leader clutched at his abdomen and staggered towards the car. He dumped the civ kit over the threshold, somehow maintaining its grip. The elder human collapsed in a splayed position, which suggested the concerned severity of his injuries. I prayed to any deity listening that nothing had connected with my astronaut. Noah gave me a forceful push to the shoulder, sending me tumbling into the back seat. He dove in on top of me and tugged the door shut. The driver floored it away from the mob at max velocity. The Terran ambassador sighed in relief before he turned his eyes to the Secretary General. Multiple bullets had pierced through his stomach, and the leader was gasping like a fish out of water. Blood was oozing onto the floorboards, draining away with a steady flow. I realized with dismay that Mayer might need hospital care more urgently than me. It took a second to roll him over, so that I could stare into his dazed eyes. The human tried to sit up, but fell back bound with a weak groan. My paw raced beneath his neck and propped up his skull. Elias's eyelids fluttered. "Tava! Chief Hunter Isif wants to help us." "Stop talking. That's not important right now," I said. "It is. I want you to make peace with the Oxor. Please. Let that be my legacy." The primate drew a shaky breath and cued on his hesitancy in my eyes. I didn't want to argue with a man who was fading in my arms. It was obvious that he wanted those negotiations to work at any cost. Perhaps it was true that Isif aimed to help humanity, the only other predators in the galaxy. But that Grey had outright stated that Vendel were lesser animals, a delicacy that he felt entitled to. That wasn't an open invitation for civil relations. "What Isif said to you was theatrics, so he wouldn't be executed," Naya coughed. He wants to end the sapient farming and the war. Need a better future. Likes your spirit. Told me so." I blinked several times. "And you trust him? Why? would lie at his mercy. Mayer's eyelids sealed shut, then his irises rolled back into his head. Noah pried a packet of human blood from a glove box and began feeding it into the Secretary General's veins. The vehicle was less than a minute from the hospital, but every millisecond seemed to be an eternity. My own weakness was creeping back in, while the UN leader's breathing grew more faint. I didn't know if I could honor that request, despite Elias framing it as the last wish. As much as I respected his discernment, the likeliest answer was that the Orcs or Hunter was manipulating human empathy. Isif knew the Venlo Republic wanted nothing to do with him. His species had enjoyed every second of the war. Even if the Federation had starved the Greys, they used that as a free pass to slaughter everyone without exception. The tires squealed, and we veered into the hospital's entrance. Squeaky voices alerted the other staff and the injured predator was on site, followed by recognition of this particular human. My mind was far away when Noah placed me onto a stretcher. Unconsciousness took a hold, and Venlo paramedics rushed two planetary leaders to critical care. End of chapter.
I would quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and Patreons. Casper Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Barky, Lord Azrakal, It's Difficult to Pronounce, Dragzoon W.R.E, Holly's Sister, Arcadian. Thank you very much.